Now, I think I've talked about it like a bajillion times, but this video from Hank Green looked really good. And I think it talks about a lot of the feelings that people have had recently regarding, I guess, like how the internet has become and how bad media has become and why people like Trump, who have been caught in only a billion lies, can get elected. And it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And I wanted to just like juxtapose it with probably one of the other, like probably one of the worst videos I've ever seen. And I only watched 2 minutes of this video. So let's do that. A bit of mold for our Mold Monday, shall we?
Hi guys,
The video is titled, "Have you noticed the vibe shift?"
today I wanted to talk to you all about what I believe to be probably the biggest cultural shift that we have ever seen. If you're anywhere around my age, except for maybe September 11th, I think that this cultural shift has been observed now for about 2 to 3 years. And when it really was codified as like, yeah, this is happening, it's when Trump won the US election. And now, in the aftermath of that, I think that you can very clearly see people are emboldened by that, they're galvanized by it, and people are much more willing to share their viewpoints on things that have been much more conservative, much more traditional than what I think a lot of people would, expect or maybe have you believe. And so I want to talk today about why that actually happened, why I think it happened, and where the culture is going to be going from this perspective, right? From this direction. And so, anyway, the first thing you have to do in order to explain where it's going to go is to explain where it came from. So, the reason why I think a lot of this happened and we've had a shift, and before I do that, I'll also explain where I think this shift is coming from. I think that we are shifting away from a more censorship heavy, a more, censored speech heavy, compelled speech heavy. And I think that you're seeing a lot of backlash against, what were considered to be like, protected types of thinking and protected groups of people. You're seeing a tremendous amount of backlash against it. And I think this is mainly evidenced on Twitter, but you can see this in YouTube comments. You can see this in comment sections of any game or like any video. I think that in general, you're just seeing a massive backlash against what people believe to be authoritarian levels of
This is true. That's why you can go on Twitter and tweet out the word cis.
compelled thought.
Also, I don't know what he's talking about compelled thought and compelled speech. I genuinely, there hasn't been any compelled thought or compelled speech anywhere.
Compelled speech. And big surprise, where did compelled
At
thought and
least
compelled speech
on the US side or on the US side of the internet, that doesn't exist.
come from? Whereas the genesis of that recently, definitely from COVID. And I think collectively, the government and the social media websites, the way that they handled people that were dissenters during COVID, the way that they handled that caused a schism in the trust of the people into the government, into these companies, into anything. And I don't think that schism, I don't think that that disconnect is really going to be mended anytime soon. I think it's probably going to take 10 to 20 years for that trust to be rebuilt, because people would be hearing, oh, well, it's going to take 2 years, or sorry, not 2 years, excuse me. That's actually what it did take. 2 weeks to stop the spread, and just wear a mask. This will solve it. Just take your vaccine. This will solve it. And I think that the messaging for COVID in general was very authoritarian in many cases. And I think that also there were countries besides the United States that were even more
Do
authoritarian.
people like Asmongold know that there have been vaccine mandates historically many, many times? Like, him and I grew up at a time where there were vaccine mandates. There are still vaccine mandates. I had to get the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine so I could go to elementary school. Vaccine mandates exist when there is a valid enough threat and it is worth getting mass inoculation. It is not the symbol or sign of a more or less authoritarian government. It's simply good governance to protect the masses from easily preventable illnesses and diseases and viruses. You are not a more authoritarian country. You are not a less authoritarian country for letting your citizens die because you don't give a fuck about making sure that they get vaccinated. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my fucking life.
Authoritarian with how they handled COVID. And because of
Leon, thank you for the 11 months. Thank you.
that, guess what happened? You had a lot of people who were like, yeah, this is fucking bullshit. We don't believe this, and we want to be able to think for ourselves.
No, the reason people have given a fuck about vaccine mandates is not because they care about authoritarian governments. It's because they were lied to by vaccine skeptics who are trying to create a culture war or a schism and politicize a disease, or rather politicize uh, a virus that should have never been politicized to begin with. Chat, I have a question. Why is it that when people come in chat to criticize me, they never actually explain what they're criticizing? They just say the same thing over and over again, which is, well, what you said was silly. And they're always following for less than 30 seconds. I just wish one of these people was smart enough to be able to just tell me what they disagree with. But I guess that like they're too mold induced to be able to explain what's making them triggered. Zol, thank you for the tier 1.
Themselves. And when they did that on social media, they got in trouble. Now, you can think that that's a good thing, or you can think it's a bad thing. I'm not really going to try to convince you one way or another, but I think that really the big shift for that was COVID is what really started building up that resentment. And then that resentment finally boiled over, and people were able to express it when I believe Elon Musk bought Twitter. Because before Elon Musk bought Twitter, there was almost no avenue on social media.
Oh, I heard his feelings. He wept. Oh, the real baby. That's okay.
That you could actually speak your mind and
It's also crazy to take advice and commentary as truth from a dude who can't even clean up after himself. I like how that is still a good marker of just who to not take advice from. Just like in general, look at how someone's life is going and be like, maybe you aren't the paragon of truth.
give like a honest opinion on things besides maybe 4chan, right, on poll. And so besides that, you couldn't really say what you think. You can't say it on Reddit. You can't say it on YouTube. YouTube is probably the most the most liberal with that. You can pretty much say as much, almost as much as you want. But YouTube does still have a lot of restrictions, more so than Twitter, for example. You can't say what you want on Facebook. You can't say what you want on old Twitter. And basically all of these social media platforms that people used were
I think he was saying it's the most liberal with allowing free speech. Most like liberal with allowing people, like liberal not in the liberal conservative way, but liberal as in the be liberal with spreading the butter on your toast. Someone take the cockroach off a sound card for real.
used as basically tools to
So crunchy
compel
sounding.
speech and to suppress people's thoughts. And I think that if you just take a step back and you think about this from an abstract, I think that you need to come to the realization that people don't like being told what to think, they don't like being told what to say, and they don't like being told that, and they don't want to be told what to do, right? I mean, at the end of the day. And so anybody who's trying to take an authoritarian stance, trying to tell you what to do, you're going to automatically get a negative response from that, at least here in the United States. And so that's happened, I think, as a result of COVID. Elon Musk buys Twitter, and now all of the people who didn't exist are making up for lost time. Like, I'm not saying this is a good thing, but holy shit, there is a lot of racism on Twitter now. Oh my God. And do you want to know why there's a lot of racism on Twitter? I'll tell you.
Not one water bottle in sight, but 3 boxes of soda. Yeah, I wouldn't listen to anything this dude has to say. Dude, this is like male living spaces. Female living spaces is having 1 cup of tea, 1 cup of my Heal energy drink, 1 cup of orange juice, and a water bottle. I like to drink a little bit of each one. Like a little. Dude, I am actually exactly like my cats, man. I've told you guys that my cats were struggling to drink water. I mean, my cat had to get pooped at the vet. Wormy, literally, she was drinking so little water, she got so
really
constipated.
Needs to work on his I statements. People don't like being told what to do. Instead, try I don't like being told what to do. Bro can't even take responsibility for his own thoughts and feelings and extrapolates to all humankind.
Yep. Anyways, my cat was so dehydrated. I had to take her. I had to take Wormy to the vet to get her pooped. The vets literally had to poop her. And they successfully did, thankfully. Thankfully, caught it in time. And it was because I took away her favorite water container, which is an ice cube tray. She doesn't want to drink from anything else. She doesn't want to drink from absolutely anything else. She only wants to drink from the ice cube tray. And I think it's because she likes to drink from like a little bit from like one of the little cubes and then from the other cube and then a little bit from the other cube. And she's just like me for real. She's just like me. And I've gotten her so many different water fountains. Didn't like him. Asmon doing Pixar face stuff. Anyways, my cat has autism, dude. So I brought back her ice cube tray, okay? Oh, thanks, modernism. Anyways. No, this is just woman behavior. Anyone who's ever spoken to a woman or lived with a woman knows that this is woman behavior. Having a couple little drinkies, a few drinks, more than one drinky. You can't just have one drink at your desk. You need to have at least a couple different drinks. You need to have a cold drink, you need to have a hot drink, you need to have a neutral drink, and then you have to have an exciting drink. Okay?
Why? It's because there's a lot of racist people. That's the reason anybody who can speak English all over the world, except for maybe a couple of countries, a few countries, probably more like it, can make a Twitter account and express exactly what they think. And so, big surprise, you're going to have people that live in totally different cultures expressing viewpoints that are not congruent with liberal Western values. And this has been a very, very upsetting reality for many people that use Twitter, but in my opinion, I find it to be a very sobering fact. I think it's extremely important to know what people are actually thinking, rather than having a manicured, curated, and censored view of the world.
No, it's that it's a race to the bottom. And if you give racist pieces of shit a platform to say whatever they want, they will flood that platform. It's the same reason that if you have a Nazi in your bar, you have to kick them out. It's because, guess what? Nazis are generally not welcome into bars. If you have giant swastikas all over your body, you are generally going to get kicked out of a bar. Why? Because that guy is going to invite all his Nazi friends, and now you're going to have a Nazi bar. It's so silly because as someone who has grown up on the internet, and you would think that Asmongold, who has also grown up on the internet, would understand why Twitter used to be the way that it was. Given everything that happened with 4chan and 8chan, because I guess it ended up getting called 8kun. It had the same problem where it pretended to be this free speech beacon, but the problem is when you have a free speech beacon, the worst of the worst go there and then start posting child porn. And then you realize, okay, actually we need some moderation. Actually, we don't want to do that. Actually. Big difference between an actual Nazi and someone who's ignorant. Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find people in here who would disagree.
That immediately shatters whenever you introduce it to actual reality, which is what I think happened with the 2024 election. I think that people imagined this was going to happen because all of the celebrities said this was going to happen, all of mainstream media said this was going to happen, and then the day comes and it's actually something totally different. And I think that what this has really happened is that people are pushing back against basically there is a false god of authoritarianism that a lot of people online have prescribed to. They have been worshiping this false god. And I think that they are doing that because their other previous gods were determined to be false. There's always the quote of God is dead from Nietzsche, but that's only half of the quote. The full quote
I just know you haven't read Nietzsche. I don't know why you're quoting him.
is God is dead and we have killed him. I think that the society that's totally killed God, there's no sense of religion in culture anymore. And I think that's by the way, that's very upsetting for many people. Religion is a very reassuring thing for many people.
What's this video about again? I don't know. I think this is like, I think actually this is the exact type of video that Asmon would call schizo posting.
I am not a religion enjoyer, personally. I think that you guys probably know that. I'm much more of an enlightened, euphoric atheist. But at the end of the day, I can recognize that it does have an ordering, I guess, like, function in a lot of people's lives. And so when you're taking that away from people...
Did he forget his WoW password or something? Stop. Also, Vendium, I don't know if I said thank you for the tier 1, but thank you. It's typically easier to understand a video when you don't pause it every 5 seconds to make insults on a person. Wow, you're so smart. Wow. Do you have any other good life advice? Do you have any other good life advice? Are you single? I was really hoping to find like a Twitch chatter that could explain the world to me. Could that be you? If only I could be so lucky. I've been looking in CSGO lobbies, but unfortunately people just keep saying the N-word there. So I don't think I've been able to find anyone there yet.
And they don't have access to
Try COD lobbies instead. Good idea.
Be a way
Did
to
I show you
order
guys? Me and my friends, we got matching profile pictures so that when we play CS, we tilt the enemy team. The best part about it, the screenshot doesn't do it justice, but they're animated as well. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Iconic. Yeah. The very first game we got into, like, this guy was so mad about the anime profile pictures, and we kept typing in chat, like, oh, can you go easy on us? Oh, lucky shot, I guess. Oh gosh. We did win most of our games last night though, so we take those. Psychological warfare. We did a lot of psychological warfare against a lot of people.
In a way to see how things are. They're going to
terrorist win. Oh, I guess it was just a lucky game.
Their own way to order things. And I think that the way that they did that was they replaced religion with political dogma. And I think this has happened in a lot of cases. And really, people that attach their meaning and like their identity and like their feelings onto these different movements, I think that for many of them, they're looking for something that religion or some form of like existential reassurance would give them. And I think that the movements, whether it's a political movement, whether it's a social movement, whether it's a social cause, I think that those movements actually for a lot of people now are filling the place that religion previously had. And I think that if you don't think that's true, just look at how they fucking defend them. I swear to God, there's people, you'd get less pushback from blasphemy in a lot of churches. And so, yes, people get very, very, very attached to these things because they built their entire identity off of them. And I think also this is especially true with young people. And with young people, it's that they've had unironic arrested development from COVID. And I think this is true not just for, it's like, oh, the kids are retarded. No. I think this has happened for a lot of people, including young adults. And so you have people that spend, let's say the ages of, like 15 to 18 locked down in COVID. Well, big fucking surprise. Whenever they turn 18, they're not going to know how to act. And they're going to probably...
The talking about being locked down during COVID and talking about how that stunts development in children is so rich. This is from one person who lived on the internet to another person who lived on the internet. Asmongold, me and you both know that we spent our high school years, our prime high school years on the internet playing MMOs, okay? COVID or no COVID, we were going to do that. You're not allowed to pretend to be this intellectual juggernaut and then judge the youngins for being too dumb because they were locked down, when effectively we put ourselves into lockdown by getting addicted to video games. That's not the cause of this quote-unquote vibe shift.
We still be acting like 15-year-olds. And so you have people that have been developmentally, basically arrested, and they've taken 3 years of like social development and socialization and just pretty much outsourced it to a social media website that's fed them a worldview that's completely distorted. It doesn't represent anything in real life. And now they go into real life.
Bro, you don't go into real life. What are you talking about?
and the dissonance between what they believe the world should be and what the world is gets bigger and bigger, and I think it makes people angrier and angrier. And I think that that's really where a lot of the hostility is coming from. It's the refutation of those types of people that have used political dogma and social, like socio-political issues, and they've replaced religion with these things. It is a pushback against those people. And the reason why I think this pushback is happening is very simple. It's because people just don't want to hear what they're saying, and they don't agree with it. It's actually just that simple. And so for a long time, you were not able to express your disagreements. You were not able to tell anybody that, like, yeah, I don't actually think this is true. This isn't really what's happening. And because you would get
what?
banned. But that all changed when Elon Musk bought Twitter. Because when Elon Musk bought...
No, you were only banned on Twitter when you couldn't stop fucking posting racist memes and posting people like Sig healing and posting Hitler was right memes. That's when you got banned. You were allowed to disagree as much as you want. Ben Shapiro has been on Twitter for forever. Candace Owens has been on Twitter for forever. Everyone from the Daily Wire has been on Twitter for forever. And those people are constantly posting disinfo and have been constantly posting disinfo. The only thing Twitter ever banned, which Elon Musk himself is realizing that he needs to crack down on a good deal of this, but he also doesn't want to. The only thing that was banned on Twitter was active hate speech, like screaming slurs, which is good because those people don't contribute anything to the conversation anyways. They just want to yell slurs out. All those Greek statue profile pictures, oh well.
Twitter, everybody who had an opinion was able to say what that opinion was, for better or for worse. And I think that we've seen a lot of both of those. And so now what we've had is that we have tons of people that feel, uniquely emboldened in a way that they hadn't really in probably 10 years on social media, given the level of censorship and control. And now people are going and saying what they really think. And I think that they're doing so in a manner that is making up for lost time. And another big component for this is that I think that there has been what I would really kind of refer to as emotional blackmail that's been going on for a very, very long time, where you can't have certain opinions about certain topics because it can be
trying and failing to channel George Carlin. Stop.
Perceived as being mean, or you can be seen as a bad person. I think that there's been a level of fatigue that is caused for people, and it's like eventually, for example, somebody thinking that they don't want illegal immigrants in their country, this doesn't necessarily mean that they're like a racist or a Nazi. And so because of that and the emotional escalation and the emotional blackmail that people use in order to try to force people into having these certain types of worldviews,
back in my day, we used to call emotional blackmail bullying. These darn liberals and all their new fangled terms, all their woke terms, it's just good old classic bullying, okay? You say something stupid, your social circle bullies you because you said something stupid. And then you realize, wow, maybe I say less stupid things. It's very simple. It has always been that simple. Wormy, whatever you do, don't put your finger on the power button. Don't do it. Don't do it, Wormy. Advocating for bullying. I've always advocated for bullying. As a victim of bullying, I am big on bullying. Okay? I think people should be bullied for cringe things that they do. All right? I was bullied for a lot of cringe shit that I did as a kid, and I grew out of the cringe shit that I did. Because social shaming is very effective and it is a good tool.
Optics of these arguments oftentimes become more important than the arguments themselves. It's kind of like what I've said before, is that the strongest argument isn't an argument. Many people do not operate based off of logic or reasoning. They operate based off of emotion and feeling. And big surprise, that's been what's taken over a lot of things. And also, this is a very important component.
No elaboration.
Meet the new boss, same as the old boss. It's not like this is totally going away. I think that we're just replacing one form of this behavior with another. And that's very worrisome to me. And I think that really what's going to continue to happen is you're going to have more people pushing back against, established social norms as much as possible, and making a push more towards traditionalism, more.
Yeah, dog, everybody operates on feelings. It's called being human being. Not me, because I operate exclusively on facts and logic. I'm very smart.
Towards conservatism. And I think that this is also happening again because of that lack of meaning in culture. You don't have the same shared culture that something like a religion provides. And because of that, you're having tons of people that don't know what to do with their life. They don't know who they are. They don't know what their identity is, because the previous things and previous lives that have given them that identity are now being taken away or have been taken away. I think probably the best example
Traditionalism. Amazing that Asmongold thinks that he represents anything traditional. Asmongold is like the pinnacle of contemporary or like modern living. Like this is a lifestyle that can only have been provided to him because of modern technologies. Nothing about his lifestyle is traditional. Sitting home and playing video games all day for a living, that is not traditional living. This is just, it's just objectively, it's just not.
that is with jobs. So when somebody has their job replaced by AI or replaced with automation, and they're not able to get a new one or something like that, and they are disconnected from the value of their work, I think that again, there's something that's existential that's taken away from that person, because now they no longer can take pride and take pleasure in the idea that they have done good work and they have contributed.
Coming from another streamer, damn. Hey, I'm not suggesting that my life is traditional either, but I also don't promote traditional lifestyles or traditional living. I think it's overrated and I think it's stupid. You should live your life the way that you want to live your life, so long as it is beneficial to yourself and the people around you, and you try to be a generally good person, right? The problem is that a lot of people think that, oh, you want to be a good person, but you're mean to people you don't like. I mean, yeah, paradox of intolerance. I don't think you have to be nice to shitty people. I think you should be nice to people who deserve people to be nice to them, or deserve people being nice to them, right? Like, if I walked up to a guy with a fucking swastika tattooed across his chest, I don't feel an obligation. And I don't think anyone else should feel an obligation to be nice to that guy. Being nice means if you don't know anything about someone and in general they've just existed around you very uncontroversially, then yeah, I think you should be nice. I think on the simplest front, if you find a wallet on the floor, you should try and give it back to the person who it belongs to, right? Tolerance is a social contract, not a moral requirement. Yeah. What is it exactly we're willing to do to be perceived as good? Being perceived as good is meaningless. The thing is, human beings already have innate compasses to know what it is to be good or to be bad. You feel good when you do good things because you experience human empathy. You feel bad when you do bad things. It's not complicated. Like, it's very simple. It's super, super simple. And you should try and do the things that make you feel good, and you should try and help other people when they make you feel good. You already have empathy. It's already in you. That's not how the human brain works. I mean, it's quite literally how the human brain works. And if it's not how yours works, you might be a sociopath. And I don't mean that as a derogatory term. I mean that in like a clinical sense. That if you do not experience a feedback loop for doing good things for other people, there might be something wrong with you. When you plan a surprise birthday party and the person is really happy afterward, your brain should automatically send you good signals. We are social creatures. We believe in in-groups. We believe in staying within those social circles and giving back to other people, even in instances where it would hurt us. And we're hardwired this way. Sociopaths in chat, Monka. Yeah.
To their community, or they're doing something that's positive. And of course, obviously,
Your brain doesn't just know things. It absolutely does. Animals know things. There's that video that's been making the rounds of like the beaver who was orphaned and some people took him in, and he's trying to build a dam inside of these people's house. Do you think someone took him to beaver school and taught him how to build a dam with like Christmas decorations? There are natural instincts in your body that don't need to be taught, that exist outside of society. You are wired a certain way. Do you think babies get taught to suck on nipples? Do you think they show them a chart and the baby's like, okay, and then I put mouth on nipple, okay, and then got it. Okay, no. Now, there are some instances where children struggle to suckle or whatever, and that is its own issue. But a lot of children that are born immediately already know breast, let's go. No, a lot of babies don't need to read the boob manual to know that is where food is, I suckle. There are a lot of things that are instinctual, that are very instinctual in you. Human empathy is one of those things that is instinctually in you. It might take time to develop. It might take time for you to expand your empathy to people beyond just your immediate circle, right? But you are born with that, or you, at the very least, you should be born with that innately. So why does slavery exist? Oh, because environmental impacts are real. Because you can teach people racism. Because if you convince enough people that actually this group of people is inferior because their skull is shaped this way and actually they want to be slaves and they've always wanted to be slaves, people will buy into it. I mean, scientific racism is very real. And I mean, you can go and read some of the historic texts when slavery was alive and well in the United States, and you can see the arguments that people made, like everyday people who just genuinely thought, oh, well, these are different. They want to be slaves. They're literally built different than we are. You have to be taught away your empathy. Because you need justifications. And it's the same thing in places where racism and slavery still exist today. Also, there are sociopaths that don't experience human empathy and don't experience a natural desire to be good, using that in a very broad way. I think people like Elon Musk are a good example, right? I mean, you guys have seen that clip of Elon Musk's dad saying he wanted to move to South Africa because he thought slavery was epic or whatever, right? You guys know what video I'm talking about? If you guys have seen the video I'm talking about, please post it. But yeah, when there is such thing as like, I think being taught to be a piece of shit, which is a big problem in my opinion with American culture. American culture is very individualistic. It's very, I got mine. And that's all that matters. And I think that strips people of their humanity a little bit. And it normalizes it. It tells you like, no, actually it's okay. It's fine. It's totally okay and cool and fine to not care about your fellow human beings. And actually it makes you girl boss. It makes you on your grind. But realistically, there is, and there always will be, unless you are clinically diagnosed as a sociopath, a part of your brain and a part of your body that sends positive cues when you do things that benefit the other people around you. That selfless behavior has a positive like cue in your body. Oh yeah, this is the video of the beaver that's trying to build a dam. so cute, but it also makes me so sad. He's just trying to build a dam and he doesn't understand. She was eventually later released into the wild. When I see stuff like this, I assume that's what the goal is. I assume that he has an outdoor place where he builds real dams. Yeah. Because there are lots of instances where animals get orphaned and, you know, people take them in and stuff and try and help them. My family used to like help birds that they found that either fell out of their nest or whatever, and they would try and like nurse them back to health and then take them back outside. But anyways. Yeah.
Why is that? Number one, it's because a lot of these jobs are, you know, computer jobs, and so it's not really as directly evident in the same way that, like, you know, you can do something that's more physical. That's number one. And then also number two is they're not really being paid very well. So you have people that have shitty jobs, they're not being paid very well. And guess what? They're looking for some form of meaning in life and somebody to tell them that that worldview is not going to last. Things are going to keep getting better. And anybody that sells that person a solution is going to have a lot of fucking buyers. And I think that's very clearly what's happened. So what I expect to see happen now is that you're going to see probably a lot of people who have been pushing back against the culture of, like, you know, cancel culture and people getting, you know, banned for having wrong opinions on things. Obviously, it'll still happen sometimes. I don't know. Maybe I've got an example of that one way or another. But I think that, of course, sometimes that will still happen, but it has been much less common. And you're even seeing things like, I think that
The entire problem with the framing of this video is that it assumes that good things and bad things are exactly the same. The problem is that censorship is a tool. It is not necessarily a good tool or a bad tool. Censoring someone who says Medicare for all is bad. Censoring someone who says, I think that Black people are inferior, end quote, that's good to censor that person. In the same way that, like, murder it can be self-defense, which in instances would be positive, or it can be bad in instances where you are just committing an act against someone who has done nothing against you. Like, I would say that objectively, murdering the school shooter who was about to shoot 50 children, that would be using this thing, murder, in the quote correct way. You can't just say, no, this is always bad. Murder is always bad. And if you ever kill someone ever, you clearly were doing it as a bad thing and you should do as little of it. You should do none of it. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There are instances where this thing that might be neutral or maybe even slightly negative, because murder in this instance is slightly negative. Killing anyone instead of subduing them is always going to be negative. You can't simplify it to the point where it's ridiculous. It's a ridiculous notion. And it's exactly what he's doing with censorship. It's like, oh, can you believe they're trying to censor everybody? It's like, what? No. Censorship is a tool. Censoring people that suck is good, actually. I just asked him to do so much commentaries, guys, so out of touch with everything. I want this level of confidence, dude. I want the level of confidence to just not provide any examples of what I'm talking about, not actually go into depth about any of these issues or topics or conversations, and then just speak bravely and proudly.
another, you know, like another benchmark for this is that, you know,
The wise man bowed his head solemnly and spoke. There's actually zero difference between good and bad things, you imbecile, you fucking moron.
Back at the Hogwarts legacy, you know, the debacle with that and how angry everybody was with J.K. Rowling. And now that there's a new Harry Potter project, the studio that's doing it has even said, like, you know, it's her freedom of speech. She can think what she wants. And so I think that is a tremendous divergence from what previously was the case, where you were not able to have certain opinions about certain topics like that. J.K. Rowling had controversial opinions about trans people. Whether you agree with them or not, you have to acknowledge that they were controversial with a lot of people. And because of that,
who determines what is good or what is bad? Anyone with human empathy. Everyone with human empathy. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but this is like the instance where the golden rule that you were taught in elementary school actually does still apply. Would you want this thing to happen to you? No. Would you be sad if it happened to someone close to you? Yeah, then you shouldn't do it. You know when something is good and bad. Or sorry, when something is good or bad.
people didn't want Harry Potter existing anymore, right? And I think that
Asmongold,
after you
DNML,
kind of,
DNM, love, I
after
love you,
that
chat.
kind of
Like, here's the thing, okay? You can read all the philosophy you want, and trust me, I'm a philosophy pervert, okay? All right? I'm such a fucking philosophy pervert. I'm a total loser on this front. But the reality is, for all of the philosophizing that these fuckers did, it's still very simple, okay? Would you want this thing to happen to you or someone around you? No, you shouldn't do it. Because morality is not objective. There are not these like immaterial values that exist outside of humanity. There is only our experiences with each other as human beings. But that's good enough. Sister Modes, thank you for the 18 months. Like, we know he's really bald and just trying to hide it. Dude, I don't know why he doesn't want to just shave. I think it's time to say goodbye, dude. I think it's time to say goodbye. Asmongold, you got to say bye. You have to. Embrace it, dude. Embrace it. It's better living. It's less difficult to maintain. You just get to have a nice smooth head and then every once in a while shave it. Have you read about meta ethics? Genuinely interesting topic. I mean, yeah, I minored in jurisprudence, okay? Because I'm a fucking loser. All right. I enjoyed writing 10-page papers like a fucking nerd. I took pleasure in reading dense philosophical works, okay? It's over for me. It's been over for me.
reaches its logical conclusion, where it's no longer seen as a reasonable response, and now it's just like an overcorrection that is fueled primarily by anger and frustration, then you're really going to see people kind of lose interest with that type of movement. And I think that's exactly what's happened. I think that a lot of people are just tired of having their opinions dictated to them. They're tired of not being able to think things that they believe are just a priori knowledge. Like, this is just, it is known to be the case. Obviously, there's the difference between men and women, etc. And this big split has happened. And now there aren't the same censorship apparatus.
Is making fun of somebody losing their hair not body shaming? No, making fun of somebody losing their hair would be like, Asmongold can't get bitches because he's balding. Telling someone to embrace their balding and telling someone to shave it all is not bullying or making fun of someone. It's giving them good advice. It's good advice objectively. That's just good advice. In the same way that if I told someone, hey, you have like something in your nose, I'm not bullying them. I'm telling them, hey, you should, I'm helping you out here. I'm helping you out, dog.
That maintain the previous power structure. And so you're seeing tons of people now speaking out against it, and really nothing happening because of it, for better or for worse, again. And so I think you're going to continue seeing that happen. You're going to continue seeing people pushing back against like these mainstream narratives. And I think that the pushback will eventually
Naomi.
become just as oppressive as the narrative originally was, because that's the way the pendulum always swings. Things always keep going until there's too much, and they always stop when there's.
It is a powerful tool, which is why no government should wield it. Ideas are constantly evolving, and coding what people can or can't say into law makes democracy stagnant, prone to decay. Moreover, if it's not codified into law, but used arbitrarily as a tool, it becomes subject to. Here's the thing, though. Nobody here is talking about changing the Constitution to not have freedom of speech. I have defended freedom of speech many times here. The fact that I can get on my stream and say I hate the U.S. and I hate the U.S. government, I hate the way that we run this piece of shit country. I hate Donald Trump, and the day that he passes in his sleep peacefully will be a great day that I will celebrate. When all of the war criminals in our country are prosecuted will be a wonderful day. The fact that I get to say all of that and I don't have to worry about anyone showing up at my door is amazing. It is objectively good. It is one of the few things in this country that is good. Damn, your chat pedantic as fuck. Well, I mean, I don't think that this person is a chatter quite yet, but we'll see. We'll see if they have the balls to stay in here. The thing is, internet platforms are businesses, and they should run and operate like businesses. People who make these platforms should be allowed to make the platforms the way they want to make the platforms. I don't think Twitter has an obligation to make sure people have the right to scream the N-word. I don't think that Twitter has to provide people a platform to say Hitler should have done more. I don't think that Twitter should do that. I don't think Twitter should allow these people to get on the internet where there are no consequences and say whatever they want. Because all of these people would never say this in public. They would never use their freedom of speech to go into their local Walmart or whatever and say this shit. They're doing it on the internet where there are no consequences. And if they're too pussy to use their freedom of speech to say it in public, why should we let them do it on this private platform? That's ridiculous. It's also, the other conversation there is that it's not actually conducive to interesting discussion. It's simply just hate speech. If someone wants to get on and talk about how, I don't know, something vaguely racist but not fully racist, like, let's make it even simpler. Let's make it super simple. Let's say somebody wanted to get on the internet and debate that actually saying the R word is good and people should have the ability to say the R word, and they don't want to stop saying the R word because the euphemism treadmill is nonsense and they're very smart. Okay, I guess, sure. That is very different from someone just getting on and just saying the R word over and over and over and over again to a bunch of different people. One of those might be an attempt at free speech and an attempt at like a dialogue around language. The other one is just using it to be the biggest douchebag you can be in the least interesting way, which is the most offensive part. Which, to be quite honest, I just don't care about defending those people's right to be completely unproductive and just be huge, annoying fuckers on the internet, shitting up my internet. Listen, the internet is very near and dear to my heart, okay? And I hate that there's so much dog shit on it everywhere now. And I wish I could return it to a phase when it wasn't this. All right? Because there was always slurs on the internet, but again, that's why you have designated spaces for different things. And the people that want to go say slurs can like go to 4chan and say their slurs. No one is stopping you from going there and doing it or going in public and doing it. So, anyways.
There's too little, right? That's it. And so, people love to radicalize, people love to become extreme, and I think the internet has provided a perfect place for people to radicalize themselves. And I think it's happened because of the lack of meaning with religion. I think it's happened because of the lack of meaning with, gainful employment. I think it's happened with the lack of meaning culturally. There's no sense of shared culture in the U.S., at least not as much as whenever I was a kid, I would say. And I think you put all these things together and you have an existential crisis that an individual has, and they're looking for anybody to replace that. And where a lot of these socio-political movements come from, that's why you're seeing a lot of people get back more into religion now. I think that religion is making a pretty big comeback. And I think the reason for that is because people are looking for that antidote of modern existence. They're looking for the way that they can order the world that makes sense, because the way that people are talking about it on the internet really doesn't. And so I wanted to talk about this because I think it's a very interesting thing, and I think it's going to shift the way that all media is portrayed. Now, obviously, things like this
never sources, just the vast majority of the video is just, this is what I feel is happening, and also I won't elaborate.
Are a very big boat. It takes a long time to turn, but you can already see that happening with people that had previously problematic opinions, etc. Just kind of get ignored in a way that I don't think would have happened 3 or 4 years ago. And if you want my personal opinion on the whole thing, I think that's a good thing. I feel like the amount of, as I said before, emotional blackmail and censorship and compelled speech that was on the internet for, I'd say the last, maybe, I'd say from 2017 or 18 to 2022, somewhere around there. I think that it did radicalize a lot of people. I wouldn't really consider myself radicalized, but I would consider myself very aware.
To me, the main problem with limiting speech anywhere is that someone has to be the one with the power to define and enforce the limits, and that's an invitation for the abuse of that power. Okay, I'm gonna break this down as quickly as I can, as easily as I can. In the real world, there are consequences for your actions and the things that you say. Whether or not you are legally allowed to call someone the N-word has nothing to do with whether or not you get decked for saying it. People don't engage in this behavior in the real world because they know that there are consequences for their actions. This is why there's so many instances of people very foolishly threatening sexual assault or rape against women on the internet, only to not realize that they've put in too much of their personal information, that the person was able to find their school, their wife, their job, and say, hey, you don't mind if I send this to all these people, right? Because I just did. The problem with the internet is that people say things without consequences. People don't, they say the most inflammatory things because they know that they can get away with it, which is bad freedom of speech. Because the goal of freedom of speech, or not goal rather, but the goal of limiting speech, the reason that you have to limit speech on the internet is because there are no consequences. Because there's no social shaming. There isn't enough social shaming. The same safeguards that exist in society that stop you from being a bad person don't exist on the internet. So somebody else has to step in, create a public forum, make the rules for it, and if you don't like it, if enough people don't like it, eventually a new platform will be born. And so on and so forth. Because at the end of the day, it's about public rule and public perception and what the majority of people agree on is okay to say and what the majority of people say is not okay to say. A Focan American, thank you so much for the 6 months. Thanks. Anyways, okay, I just want to get to the end.
I found it to be incredibly interesting and compelling to watch and experience over the last probably 3 or 4 years, 2 or 3 years, hard really to say. And I'm curious to see where it's going to go. And that's about it, guys. So let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.
So he's trying to, I guess that whole video was trying to describe the problems of the internet and what's wrong with it and why certain things exist the way that they exist. But he basically says absolutely nothing. Even if you fucking rub every brain cell you have, he says basically nothing for that entire period of time. And he doesn't provide a prescription or a solution to anything. This, on the other hand, is a much better video talking about the times that we are living in and why we have gotten here.
Good
So
morning,
let's
John.
watch this as a juxtaposition to the last video.
In this video, I would like to try to explain what the hell is going on, which I know is a tall order and is going to be imprecise, but we're going to do our best. Everyone lives through unprecedented times, but a thing I keep thinking, especially when I'm looking down at an 8-year-old boy who's probably going to be alive in the year 2100, is how weird is this really? How weird is his life going to be? And John, I'd like to make the case that very. Like, his life is going to be historically weird. My son is going to grow up in a world that has been fractured by a set of circumstances that the world has not seen for more than 500 years. Now, media technologies absolutely do evolve and change, and there are new ones all the time, but I'd like to start, if you will forgive me, talking a little bit about radio, which I think we think of radio as one of the most boring communications technologies there is, just a way to get music that we didn't pick, interspersed by ads that are at least locally relevant. So let's put ourselves into the minds of people back in the early 1900s. It's hard to over-exaggerate how powerful radio was when it first hit, which was not 500 years ago. We're going to get there. We're starting with radio. Radio was invented in the 1890s, but it wasn't until the 1920s that lots of people started having radios in their homes, and by the 1930s, they were cheap and easy to get. And I need you to imagine for a moment how extremely weird this technology must have been. For most people, the radio was the first time in their lives that they heard music without the musician being physically near to them. That was the world less than 100 years ago. But more relevant here, it was the first time that one person's voice could reach millions of people, and it could do that in real time. In fact, at first, it could only do that in real time. This was all happening at the same time as the Great Depression. People had good reasons to be pretty dissatisfied with their situations, and this wasn't just an American thing. Europe was also struggling, especially Germany, which had been hit hard by having to pay reparations to the winners of World War I, though how much that contributed to things is apparently debated by historians, of which I am not one. People were not in great places. There was demand for, people wanted things to blame their circumstances on. And for a few reasons, radio was much better at satisfying that demand than newspapers. Newspapers had been around for a long time. They were more expensive. You had to pay for them every time you wanted a new one. There was also more regulation and structure around them. People had built up an understanding that newspapers were sometimes trying to manipulate them, so they had some built-in wariness. Radio, on the other hand, was brand new. It was a one-time investment. You didn't need to be literate, which many people weren't. You didn't need to go into this city to buy a new one every day. And more than anything, it was magical. Like, I have a hard time imagining how new and weird and wonderful it must have been to, like, listen to a charismatic person talk to me from 1,000 miles away. And what a spell that must have cast. And also to know that people...
I mean, that's, dare I say, that's how it was like on the early days of the internet, where you would find like these really niche forums of people talking about very niche things that you knew nothing about. It was really cool. Or, I mean, if you go even like the earliest days of the internet, do you guys remember the very beginning, the very, very, very beginning of, not quite hacks or cheats in video games, but like strats in video games? Like, I remember playing video games and then being like struggling, eventually beating it, and then looking online back when GameSpot or like game FAQs used to be good, and being like, whoa, you can do that. Oh my God, I have to go back and play this game. Like, oh, that was so cool. That was such a cool time to be alive, because prior to that, there was nothing. There was just, you'd played this game to the best of your ability, and if you could beat it, you could beat it, and if you couldn't, you couldn't. That was so awesome. It was so fucking awesome, dude. Old school EverQuest was like that. I remember seeing guides for Harvest Moon Back to Nature. Yeah, dude. I remember the first time I played a Harvest Moon game, I was like 15 or something. And prior to that, I'd never even heard about video games like that. And I remember looking up like what gifts you have to give and like the birthdays and all of that stuff. And I was like, it was just like a very unique experience, because that didn't exist before then. It just didn't. your cousin or your friend that played more than you, or like your cousin was your only source before then, yeah. And like for me as a kid, I didn't really have anyone around me that played games. So I was better than my siblings because my siblings got games and they didn't really like them and they didn't play them. My sisters didn't really care for games that much. And I loved them. So I played the fuck out of every single game and I insisted on beating every single game. And I also didn't end up getting any friends that played video games in school because I mean, like, I kind of just got bullied a lot. And also, the only friends I made were girls, and girls generally didn't play video games. So I didn't have anyone. It was just me. So, like, the first time being able to see other people on the internet talk about enjoying games and the cool things they found in games it was so cool. I remember the first time I found out about like Easter eggs, like no, learning what that is and learning that people collect these. And I remember the first days of Achievement Hunter. Oh my God, it was just so, it was so cool. It was so, so, so cool. And now it's just like, you try to fucking find out how a quest operates and you're like bombarded with links from fucking Dexerto or GameSpot. And it's like, are you looking to find out how this quest is? Well, here's the thing. Now, I'm sure you're thinking about how this quest initially starts by you starting this dialogue with this character. They then present, it's like, oh my God, please. And then the end of the article is like, we don't yet know how the quest ends. It's like, next link down is Fextra Life with no information in the wiki. Break my fucking monitor. And now AI slop, as if it wasn't bad enough. Oh my God, dude. The rage. It used to be all good. It used to be you could Google this stuff and the first result was a good result. And the second result was a good result. And they got straight to the point. Oh. Oh. Anyways, yeah. And I imagine radio was like that for people once upon a time also, because it was like, whoa, this is the first time you had ever been able to speak to or hear from another person that wasn't in your immediate circle. You really don't know how to Google, do you? Wow, you sound really big and smart and strong. You're not single by any chance. You don't, could you come and Google some stuff for me? You just seem really smart. ... But sexy. I've always wanted to learn how to Google things.
All over my country, we're hearing the same speech at the same time, and we're all there together experiencing it, millions of us. There were also in the beginning very few legal regulations on radio, and I think just as powerfully, if not more powerfully, there were no mental regulations.
Sorry, Leslie. Damn, the sarcasm doesn't make you better. ... I wasn't being sarcastic. I wasn't being sarcastic. I was being genuine and honest, okay? I'm sorry that you've been so hurt by other women. You don't understand what a genuinely interested woman looks like anymore. All right? You need to move past your trauma. Pedron, thank you for the prime.
There were no norms. ... People's minds were just open to this, to have a person speaking to them. You might go and like watch a talk or a debate or something, but otherwise, the only people talked to were their friends. And this was a new way that strangers, powerful, charismatic strangers, could speak to you. For example, Father Coughlin, who was one of the first radio preachers, and he tapped into specifically this dissatisfaction. He connected with and empathized with normal, everyday...
Why is the TDS just cutting off on its own, dude? Milnors, thank you so much for the 3 months. Give my money to Denims instead of Bezos. Yes. Guys, use your primes. Remember, every day that you are not using your primes, you are making Bezos just a little bit more rich.
Ordinary Americans. He spoke about elitist power structures, the banks, the inequality, and not all, but certainly some of the Jews. atheistic Jews, communist Jews, millions of people
DNM
listened to these broadcasts. He was an extraordinarily powerful figure in the US, and as Hitler rose to power in Germany, in part because he was also super savvy at using the radio to communicate with the common people of Germany, Father Coughlin spoke about him with great appreciation and interest. I'm simplifying a ton here, but there's something happening here. It is a post-media revolution rise in populism, and it happens pretty much every time there's a media revolution. But populism begins not as the ideology, but the marketing. I'm seeing people get this wrong all over the place right now. Populism is not an ideology, it's a marketing strategy. I see your real human problems, and I also see who is causing them. All of the institutions that are impenetrable and imperfect, but also the people those institutions are secretly supporting at your expense, or controlled by to your detriment. And if you listen to me, we will solve all the problems with a number of new policies. But
this is literally how Trump won. Trump is by no means a common man who gives a single shit about anyone who makes less than $1 million. But populism narrative. Obsolete Bullet, thank you for the Prime 7 months. Sound Soul, thank you for the Prime. Some sad, fat white guy, that's such a good name. Thank you for the Prime. Sally Cat, thank you for the tier 1.
Sometimes populism actually becomes the policy. It goes from being the message to being what we're going to do. Here are the bad guys. The policy is get rid of the bad guys. That's what happened with Father Coughlin. It's what happened with Nazi Germany. Father Coughlin actually started...
Do you guys see why I wanted to juxtapose the Asmongold video with this video? Like, Asmongold video is literally just, I think that there's a lot of censorship or something, and then we're going to stop censoring, and I think it's good, and now that's what's happening. It's like, oh my God, I'm losing brain cells. Christ. Whereas this one is like, whoa, cool, we're learning about radio. We're learning about these people who've reached these other people by using these methods. And then he's going to compare it, presumably, to what is happening exactly in our current times, except with the internet and with the unbelievable slop that exists on the internet. Stone Vermin, thank you for the Prime.
Advocate for the US to work with Nazi Germany. He was an extremely harsh critic of FDR. He began to say very Nazi-like things about what Americans should do to Jews. But as the tensions between the US and Germany rose, that became untenable, and the public and the government persuaded radio stations to stop carrying his broadcasts. Even though Coughlin remained popular, FDR basically said, no, this guy cannot talk to the American people anymore. This isn't print. It's radio, it's new, it's a limited public resource, it's a spectrum that we can't fit everything on, and this is one of the things we can't fit on it. And I think this was a fairly clear violation of the freedom of speech. Father Coughlin drifted into obscurity. He became a normal priest again. He died the year before I was born. So people are thinking probably right now, okay, so Trump is like the Coughlin of the internet age, or like the Hitler of the internet age, and like a little bit. Like, you can see it in there, like the alignment with people's legitimate grievances, the railing against every institution from public schools to doctors, the use of a new, somewhat magical...
The promise that he will fix all of these issues and that he is not part of these issues, despite him being a person in a position of power. Sally Cat, thank you so much for the 5 gift subs. Thank you. Erotic, thank you so much for the Prime. Williver, thank you so much for the Prime. Thank you, guys.
Unregulated communications technology to name those threats and label who is responsible for them as the enemy. Trump is the product of a post-media revolution rise in populism. I don't think anyone would argue with that. That does not mean that he is the same guy as Coughlin or Hitler. But it is interesting that he is the product of a phenomenon that we have seen before. But also, he's not like these other guys in another way, because I don't think that radio is the best analogy for the internet. Radio and TV are centralizing, whereas the internet is decentralizing. What do I mean? Well, to make a radio station, you need advanced technology, lots of money, you need permission. It's very easy to regulate because there are only so many radio frequencies, and governments actually had to quite quickly move in and regulate who would have access to them, or stations would constantly be overlapping with each other, or the most powerful, wealthiest, person could just take up the whole radio spectrum. Television has been the same. There were only so many channels, each tightly regulated. They're very expensive to run, and in the beginning, there was only space for 3 or 4 of them. This media revolution, because it was so centralizing, was a force that actually ended up being quite useful for bringing America and other countries together, reducing the number of voices that could be heard, thus silencing many marginal perspectives. But eventually TV did start to fracture until we got multiple news channels from different perspectives.
Populism is cancer? I mean, yeah. I mean, it just preys on people's most, like, animalistic natures, or, like, most tribalistic natures, without actually offering any real solutions, right? He's gonna fix it all, yeah.
First, Fox News with its more right-wing nationalist perspectives, then MSNBC with a more progressive left-wing perspective. But even then, TV was a relatively centralizing force because so much of it was available. And there were lots of rules and regulations that had built up over the years. The internet isn't like this. It is the opposite of this. But there has been another media revolution very much like this. The first one, the printing press. The movable type printing press, at least the version used in Europe, was invented by a guy named Johannes Gutenberg to solve the problem of every book in Europe being written by hand, which does seem like a difficult way to do things. For a long time after Gutenberg started making Bibles, no one really knew what to do with print technologies. Books were big and expensive, and there just wasn't that much demand for them. That demand was mostly soaked up by the most powerful institutions out there, which is largely the Catholic Church, the only church of note in Europe. But then a guy had an idea. He, like lots of other people, did not like how the dominant system was operating. And there had been many arguments about that over the years. But instead of just talking about it, he went to a printer and he said, hey, print me 105-page pamphlets. And that was way easier for the printer than making a whole book. It was cheap. The printing press was already there. All they needed was the paper and the ink. This guy's name was Martin Luther. And you might know him from one of the things he made, Lutheranism. People could pay just a little bit for a pamphlet like that.
Yes, the OG Martin Luther. Good old jukebox thing for the prime.
You'd actually make quite a lot of money as a printer doing it. You could create an economy around that. Printers, in their off time, could just print up a bunch of Martin Luther's pamphlets and sell them themselves. Martin Luther, interestingly, just like everyone on Twitter, didn't actually make any money selling these pamphlets. It was the people with the presses who got paid, and Luther was just doing it because he wanted to get his message out. Familiar. And again, I have to try and get in touch with how weird this must have felt to the people at the time. Books were big and expensive, and for hundreds of years, the ideas of a normal person owning one would have been ludicrous. And so almost all of the people who were printing anything were really big, powerful institutions. But now there was this thing that was like a book, and it had ideas. Ideas that weren't the ideas of the powerful people who controlled the books. They were new ideas from a guy who wasn't particularly powerful. And the powerful people really didn't like these ideas. And it seems that Martin Luther realized that the more inflammatory his writing got, the more people wanted to buy the pamphlets and the more printers wanted to print them. And to be fair, the institutions of the time were not undeserving of critique. Now, Martin Luther was not the only person who printed pamphlets like these, but he was very good at it. I didn't really understand this for the first couple of decades after knowing that Martin Luther existed and that the Reformation was a thing, but this guy was a social media influencer, and he was also not chill. He was a reckless guy. You might not be super surprised to hear this, but he hated Jews. During a peasant rebellion, which was in part actually inspired by his work, he called on landowners to just kill the peasants, likening them to dogs that needed to be put down. Somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 of them.
It's like that one short from Funky Frog Bait. It's like everyone in history that ever said anything good also said like 500 horrible things. Because no, let me show it to you guys 1 second.
I mean, seriously.
Learning about any male historical figure.
His legacy has impacted millions of people.
Oh my god, this guy sounds amazing.
Yeah, he also cheated on his wife.
Oh! I mean...
Yeah. He like cheated on her like a lot, like a lot, like the moment she was out of sight, he was inside whatever woman he could get his hands on. Okay. Yeah, whenever his wife would try to write something, he would set it on fire in front of her and say, "I hate you, I hate you, I hate you." And then he'd like lock her in the attic because he had this theory that the female brain is only good for cooking and cleaning. Why? Why? Yeah, he eventually divorced her and abandoned his 7 children, and she was so sad about it, she threw herself in front of a train. But you know, he was just a product of his time. I mean, seriously.
It's such a good clip. It's such a good clip. It's such a good short. Man always gets a little rush out of telling people John Lennon beat wife. Anyways, that funky frog bait video, but like also every single historical figure that did anything good hated either Black people, Jewish people, women, or all of the above. Just like consistent, like pick any single one, just pick any single one. And it's like, oh, okay. All right. Okay. I'm going to piss, but I have my earbud in, so I'm still listening.
Them were killed. He called the Pope the Antichrist. He was not a chill guy with the rhetoric, is all I'm saying, though it should be said several times the Catholic Church in the 16th century was worse. Just absolutely very bad. I don't feel like I necessarily need to get into it, but pretty evil. And also, in addition to being inflammatory, Martin Luther was an exceptional theologian. His arguments were good. That's part of the reason why he was so popular back then, and indeed remains fairly popular now. And again, there were, at first, because it was also new, no regulations on this new form of media in law, and just as importantly, none in the minds of people. And there were regulations on calling the Pope the Antichrist, and Martin Luther was excommunicated, but he did manage to survive, which is amazing to me. Like, he lived. I would love someone to explain to me how he was not just killed. But when you look at the details of this, it is all much more Twitter screaming match than I had first imagined it would be. It was very conversational. People were mad at each other, and they wrote pamphlets back and forth, and they hated each other. They were just mean. Erasmus was a friend and also eventual rival of Martin Luther, and in his last ever letter to Martin Luther, he wrote, "What distresses me, as it distresses all decent people, is the fact that because of your arrogant, insolent, and turbulent personality, you cause a fatal dissension that unsettles the whole world. You expose good men and lovers of the humanities to the fury of the Pharisees, and you arm wicked and rebellious men for revolution." There is a similarity between Martin Luther and Father Coughlin and Donald Trump and many other anti-establishment populists who rose to power after media revolutions. And it is that they all were, if nothing else, reckless. As a person who has a fairly significant platform and is often terrified that I will say something that is incorrect or will have an overall negative impact on the world, this is kind of hard for me to understand. But Martin Luther did not like that his words had resulted in armed conflict and death, but he simply could not stop talking. He felt that he was right, and of course, about many things he was, and that was far more important to him than any potential unintended consequences. Tearing down the corrupt institutions of the Catholic Church resulted in a complete
Hi, pissered. Why is everyone scattering? What were you guys doing?
fracturing of their
Dude, I feel that though, Martin Luther. Being a yapper, I fucking feel that. Sometimes you just can't shut the fuck up.
hegemony, and there's basically nothing that has happened since in European history that was not influenced by that. Was the Reformation entirely caused by the printing press? Of course not. There were many factors that happened all at the same time. Enough people, for example, needed to be able to read for it to happen, and that took a long time to occur. But I don't think anybody's out there arguing that it wasn't an important piece of the puzzle. So there is something happening over and over again here in weirdly the same way, which is that there are big institutions that kind of make society work, and they're always some level of imperfect. And when there is a media revolution, really any time, whether it's radio or newspapers or pamphlets, there is a rise in populism. It helps when there are
Thank you for telling me to refresh. I didn't even realize we have Christmas emotes, guys.
other problems going on at the same time, like, for example, a bunch of post-pandemic inflation, or the Catholic Church is maybe overextending its reach a little bit by selling the ability to get into heaven, or there's a Great Depression. But the media revolution plays an important role. We got to get it out of our heads, and I have this problem too, that this somehow aligns with current political ideologies of the left and right in the US. But in general, there are times when it is more from the left, and by which I mean that the enemy that has created all of the problems are the wealthy, who gather the power around themselves and use it to control everyone else. And then there are times when the populism is more right-wing, when the enemy is the group with like an unaligned cultural identity, whether that's immigrants or Jews or another race or something like that. Nationalistic populism or socialistic populism. But honestly, populism is about marketing, so these things blend together. Populism in America right now is clearly from the right. It's from the right-wing political party, but it has a sting of socialistic populism where people deserve support as long as they are the right people. The people who have built those systems are the cultural elites. Not necessarily the wealthy precisely, but certainly some of them are wealthy, and certainly they are like the high status caste of soft-skinned, overeducated wine drinkers. But it's not like there's nothing to attack. It's not like there's no problems. Anti-establishment populism at this moment was inevitable, both because our systems are imperfect and people's situations are not great, and because of this intense decentralized media revolution. Like, we need to remember that this shift to authority decentralized media revolution. Like, we need to remember that this shift to authority.
I mean, the fact that anyone can get on the internet and get lied to by AI, and that there are like probably millions of boomers that use Facebook that have fallen for at least one AI post is unbelievably concerning. Can you explain the connection of this to Asmon drama? I don't know about any Asmon drama. I just saw a video from Asmongold trying to explain why like society is the way that it is now, and it was just a bunch of slop and like word salads, and I wanted to compare it to a video like this that actually fundamentally explains how media revolutions and how popular opinions happen. Like how we get to these points in time, but in a way that's actually explained well. Decided to pull Asmon's stream for a quick second, and he's philosophically analyzing the potential of AI girlfriends on OnlyFans creators' businesses. Excellent. Wonderful. Nice. Good.
Authoritarians is not
Great,
a post-COVID
excellent
phenomenon. This is an internet phenomenon.
Yes. So like this is a perfect example of why I showed the Asmongold video first. He tries to explain that like kids are mentally stunted because of things like COVID lockdowns, but it's just a complete dog shit argument. Like that's not why. 1 year of lockdown does not do enough damage to like the psyche of like children. It's just not. You know what does? Kids growing up watching Asmongold, or sorry, not Asmongold, sorry, why did I say Asmongold? Andrew Tate talking about how you need to get bitches in cars and you need to show these hoes what they should be doing for you and all this other shit. Like, it's the proliferation of dog shit content from dog shit ideologies that is very easy to scroll through and click at and look at as a kid or like a teenager. I missed you more than Ethan Klein misses his Sabra hummus. 1 year of lockdown and mask and perpetual fear can absolutely affect a kid. The problem is that kids are just not afraid of things because kids don't understand things. So this perpetual fear that like adults experience, it's just not something that the kids experience. I mean, I remember like my parents being concerned or afraid about certain things. And as a kid, I just didn't understand them. So I didn't care about them. Like these were such foreign notions to me, and these were so far away from me that it didn't matter. I was too busy worried about my grades and worried about getting bullied at school to give a fuck about like COVID or some shit like that, or the flu or whatever, right? Or the 2008 housing crisis. Yeah. Yeah. And also when I was talking about COVID, or I was talking about the mental, the emotional stunting of children, I was saying that that is not nearly as bad as the fucking rot that kids are getting scrolling through TikTok and just video after video after video after video. Like that is way fucking worse. And it's just not even close.
Imagine Donald Trump without Twitter. You can't. I know that the bureaucracies of today are better and more transparent than those of the 1930s, or especially 1470, but they are imperfect. Obviously, there are real problems in our society, whether that's how easy it is to get unhealthy food or how hard it is to get good medical treatment or childcare. There are lots of real reasons to be pissed off. Communication is what we do. It is the thing that makes us human. And when a technology like the social internet hits, it's a big deal. Back when print happened, it was the first time any person who did not have a huge amount of power could use a nonverbal form of communication on a lot of other people. And then when radio happened, it was the first time one person could reach millions at the same time. Now, we've lowered that print barrier so far that it isn't just like some overeducated priest like Martin Luther who has access. It's everybody. And it's not just one person who...
And that's why we have shit like this.
So, yeah, some bitch try to say, oh, well, like, you're so mean. Why are you such a bully? Whatever. I'm like, bitch, why are you on Overwatch? You need to be overwatching a fucking kitchen and overwatching a sandwich for a man who's superior to you that's probably overwatching your dumb at whore ass. But you're over here playing with me, running a mercy, not healing me because you fucking suck at the game and you got no fucking awareness because women have no awareness with anything besides how much makeup they got on their face. Oh, which, by the way, is always too much because it's the makeup for their lack of aesthetics. These fucking sluts, why not video games? Back in the day, when I played video games, Halo 2, if I heard a female in the fucking lobby, I'm like, what the fuck are you doing here? Give that bitch the Timberland boot out the fucking lobby. But now these whores have taken over video games. Like, I'm fucking shocked. I haven't played in fucking years. Come back. I'm gonna pick this character. Bitch, what are you doing here? Why are you here? Why are women on video games? Why are they even streaming themselves playing video games? They fucking suck. Every single gamer sucks. Female gamers suck. I fucking said it. They're trash. They got no awareness. Nothing. They suck. So, yeah, some bitch try to...
Hitler 1 and Hitler 2, I see. Let me say a couple of things really quickly. 1, posted without commentary. Insights into sexism, male status, and performance moderates female-directed, hostile, and amicable behavior. You guys are welcome to read this study yourself, okay? And take a look at how they found this information. But they tracked a bunch of games. They tracked toxicity. And do you know what they found? They found the following. Our study demonstrates that video games offer a unique opportunity to examine variation in sexist behaviors and the situations that result in changes in sexist attitudes. By demonstrating that female-directed hostility primarily originates from low-status, poorer performing males, our results suggest that a way to counter it may be through teaching young males that losing to the opposite sex is not socially debilitating. Oh. You mean to tell me that the sexist dudes are just the bottom fraggers? Literally skill issue. Anytime you see a guy screaming like this, just know that he's a bottom fragger. He's the type of guy that goes 0-10, feeds all game, and then screams like a little bitch because his team didn't help him enough. Because he needs help. He needs help to win a game because he can't win him himself.
Denims, I've almost hit the 3-year mark. Alexa, play Enemy
No.
by Imagine Dragons.
No.
Alexa, set volume to maximum and engage in lockout mode.
No.
I wake up to the sound.
No. Thank you for the 35 months. Holy shit. Low self-esteem has been related to punching down and to raise one's personal self-esteem and does not occur with high self-esteem. Very consistent with intergroup self-esteem theory. This has been everybody's known about this, okay? Show the following, you showing your anime profile picture CS squad causing rage is so good. Yes. I showed it earlier, but Yeah, this is why me and my friends played CS:GO and got a bunch of matching anime profile pictures, specifically so that we could top frag, win, and then make the Myrons of the world pissed that they lost to this. And it doesn't show it, but the anime profile pictures were also animated. Because it is very tilting to lose to this. Second thing I was going to say, all right? A second thing, I don't know, I'm pretty bad at video games. I don't say stuff like that. Oh, no, it's not that low-performing males always are sexist. It's that sexist males that play video games by large tend to be low-performing. The other thing I'm going to say is this is so obviously poor performance, because if you're blaming your mercy for why you're losing, that tells me all I need to know. Okay, as a tank player, anytime someone blames their healers, that tells me all I need to know. It's like, oh, you suck. You can't maintain LOS of your healers, so you keep dying. You should play better. The only people you're allowed to blame for not healing is Moira players, because that's just factually true. Okay, I'm sorry, it's just true. It is objectively just true. But if you're at the point where you're blaming your mercy, again, as a tank main, you are a poor performing player. It's just the truth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You're just a shitty DPS player. What's LOS? Line of sight. That you maintain line of sight so that your healers can heal you. Whereas if you go to bumfuck Idaho, they can't heal you because they can't see you because you suck. It's very simple. But most importantly, all right, more important than any of these. But if most players are low rank, most sexist players are going to be low rank too? No? Yeah. I mean, play any video game. When you get to higher ranks, people stop acting this way. This is just true. I'm telling you, as someone who's climbed playing a lot of different characters over a lot of different games and a lot of different skill levels, the lowest, like the lower you go, the more and more annoying and bitchy your teammates get. And the higher and higher you go, when I was playing master games in Overwatch, people are very respectful because they want to win the game. So when they hear someone on the team, they're like, yeah, just, you need to play here. Guys, we need to play this way. We need to play this way. That's okay. It's okay. Lost, just regroup. Don't triggle. But once you're in like bottom rank, when you're playing gold ranks, it's all just people just getting tilted over nothing because they suck. So they start raging and screaming. And again, if this is true of any video game, if you play in low ranks in video games, more of these players exist. And if you play in high ranks in the same game, there are way less people like this. Way less. Because also you have to understand that getting tilted makes you worse at video games. So there's less tilt at the highest ranks because you have to not be tilted so that you can play well. So generally the people who climb are the people who can control their tilt, or they realize when they're tilted and they take a break. Instead of just spamming ranked queue, spam rank queue. I need to lose 15 games in a row so I can blame my teammates. Card and fighting games are the best examples of this. I didn't really ever get into card or fighting games. I tried Magic like once or twice and I was like, not for me. And when it comes to fighting games, I just like spam my buttons. I never got into it. I'm a shooters person. I like MOBAs a little too. But I believe that it's the truth. It's also true in fighting games as well. What about Balatro? Balatro? I haven't played it. It's the one remedy. Oh, sorry, it's the one thing that I need to fix. All I will say is the masses agree with me. Hit tweet. Silence female gamers talking. 69K likes. Nice. know you're a DJ gamer. Are you going to play PO2 Friday? Do you think anyone's going to be playing? The servers are going to be flooded. The servers are not going to work. No one's going to be playing that game. I'll play on Saturday, though. Getting tilted at teammates doesn't just make you worse. It's indicative of focusing on others rather than improving your own gameplay, which will keep you from ranking up. Yeah, the most important thing, chat, if anyone here actually wants to rank up, I'm currently trying to rank up in CS. The most important thing to note is you have to carry every game if you want to win. And if you watch people who are very good at video games, they carry every game that they win. Or sorry, they carry every single game that they play. I mean, go watch Tyler One playing bronze, silver, gold, plat, diamond, master, grandmaster. He up until probably like, I don't know, master, he has to carry every game. You should expect your teammates to suck. It should be a pleasant surprise when they don't suck. That's the rule. And I remember when I learned about this concept when I was trying to learn how to play Overwatch, and it changed the chemicals in my brain. And I got so much better because what you're not realizing is every single game that you play, you are making tens, if not hundreds of mistakes. You're peeking in instances you shouldn't peek. You're pushing in instances you shouldn't push. You're missing shots that you shouldn't be missing. You're taking dumb, you're ulting in stupid ways. You're using your abilities in stupid ways. You're not working with your team. Every single game you play, you are making a billion mistakes. So instead of sitting there getting mad that your teammates are making dumb mistakes, you should watch your own gameplay just to realize how many dumb mistakes you're making. And once you start fixing those, you'll start climbing. What about when you suck? Should you expect your randoms to suck more? No. When you suck, you need to learn how to suck less, okay? Unless you're a particular liberal streamer. All right, that was the last joke I'm going to say about that topic. Unless you play just for fun, in which case, if you play just for fun, just play for fun. Who cares? Anyways. Just aim better, bro. Just click on their fucking heads, dude. Just click their heads. If you can't click their heads, you deserve to lose, all right? That's the philosophy you should have. And I will tell you, when you place the blame on yourself, when you're the reason you win and you're the reason you lose, you get tilted less often because you stop caring about how good your teammates are. Because you're like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. I don't know why I pushed that. I don't know why I ulted there. That was such a fucking stupid ult. And then you stop making those mistakes because you stop wasting time focusing on people whose actions you can't control. Unless you're duo queuing, in which case I think if you're duo queuing, you can criticize the person you're duoing with a little bit. You can be like, hey, when I do this, can you do this? Yeah, that's fine. But my 10% accuracy rate is my team's fault, Copium. No, dude, Copium, I'm in loser's queue. Copium, they keep putting me in loser's queue. Do you like any strategy games? I mean, I got into what's the one where you, well, they're all like that. I was gonna say where you do fucking war crimes. Crusader Kings. I played Crusader Kings a good amount. And then I got super addicted to Stellaris. RimWorld is less of a strategy game and more of a sim game, I think. The two strategy games I've played a lot of. I've played a lot of other strategy games a little bit, but Crusader Kings and Stellaris. I finally get to watch you live. I'm coming over from YouTube. Welcome from YouTube. Hi. As someone who hasn't played Overwatch in years, I'm feeling so called out. Yeah, I was very addicted to Overwatch. I was super addicted. I really love that game. I don't know if you guys have played Overwatch Classic, which is out. It's out for the rest of today. I've been playing. I'm going to cry. I'm going to Brian kill me if they don't make it permanent. Because Fortnite introduced no build mode, and then they made it permanent because they realized how much people missed it, and I miss Overwatch Classic. I miss it so much. It was so much fun. I've been playing it a little bit and it's so fun. It's so nice being able to play a version of a game that was very well balanced. There's a couple things that I think were good introduction, or like that they introduced into Overwatch that were good changes. And I run into them. So like Reaper, for example, Reaper sucks in Overwatch Classic. It's just so not fun to play without the heal, without the lifesteal. Luckily, I was never a Reaper player, so who gives a fuck? Get fucked, Reaper mains. But man, I really miss it. It was really cool going back to Overwatch Classic and knowing every single map and knowing how to hold every map and how to push every map and who is good on certain maps and who's bad on maps and how to play against things and how to counter things. It was so good. It was so much fun. Oh man. Dying to scatter shots not fun though. It's still not fun. Dying to scatter shots still not fun. Dying to McCree fan the hammer still not fun. But that's okay. Back when tanks used to be fun. Back when Reinhardt had a 2000 shield. Oh, the good old days. I miss it so much. Oh. But I do think Overwatch Classic Mercy Heal was the same as Winston damage, which has not been fun as someone who likes to play some Winston. Anyways, we're super off topic. Super duper off topic, but on FI. Hammond is so fun. I never got into Hammond. Ryan Season 5 is what got me into top 500. That shit was so goated. Dude. It's fucked up because I was a Zenyatta main through and through, and I just got so sick and tired of bad Reinhardts that I literally became a Reinhardt player. I got so pissed, and I was like, get the fuck out of my way. Give me that. I'm learning how to play this character since you people fucking suck. Move. And then I started playing Reinhardt. And I became a Reinhardt player. Anyways, literally my story also, I just couldn't handle Reinhardt sitting at chokes. I couldn't handle watching them die to Roadhog ulti. Because they don't know how to jiggle spam this shit. It was just too much for me. It was too much. Anyways, yeah, what the hell? We gotta enough of this. Enough. Because this is maybe a good stopping point, actually, since we did all this pausing. If anyone wants to finish the video, it's really good. If you guys want to give it a like and a comment, please give it a like and a comment. Here is the video link. I just got to thinking about Overwatch and I couldn't stop myself because I'm a fucking degen. I'm a disgusting degenerate, dude. I'm scared to log into my main Overwatch account and see how many hours I have. So I've just been logging onto my alt account, which should tell you all you need to know. But very good video on why everything is the way that it is now. Really good video from Hank Green on populism, media revolutions, and the dog shit that is the internet now.